Hello friends, welcome to the chapter number 6, which is titled as Management of Stress. Okay, we talk about stress. Now what is stress? All of us are fighting stress, isn't it? Is stress good or bad? Is it real or imaginary? How do you identify that there is a stress? Do we all know? Some of us know about certain things, but is stress unavoidable? The answer is no. Stress is not unavoidable. And what is stress? Let us try to understand what is stress. This chapter tells us the importance of understanding stress, recognizing it, and learning to manage it. We are not removing stress. Stress cannot be eradicated. It can't be removed. It can only be managed. Stress is required. At the same time, it is required in certain proportion only, not more, not less. If it is less, you don't achieve. If it is more, you have issues on health, emotions, etc. Okay, so let's go along with the introduction. Stress is an integral part of living. It is considered to be a major killer. Today we call it as a major killer because we are living in a 21st century, in a type of working conditions, in a type of living conditions where things are, too many demands are made on you. Life is too demanding. You want many things happening in your life. You're very ambitious. And there's a lot of competitiveness with which people are living. People don't want to let go of certain things. They want to catch hold and keep everything with them. They want to keep relationships. They want to have acquisitions. They want to get everything that is possible, which is available today. People are reaching out. Now, in that, there is an explosion of thoughts, explosions of actions, and things are getting disproportionate to what one can manage. Okay? Now, in this module, what are we going to be doing? We are going to be studying various aspects of stress, their types and means of coping with stress. Coping means managing with stress. Learn about personality types that are prone to stress. Certain types of personalities are more stress prone than others. Learn how individual behavior causes stress to self and others. Study organization stressors and how structures, processes, people and cultures increase stress. This is about organization part of it. And finally, try to understand individual and organization strategies to control stress or to manage stress. I would like to use the word manage and not control. Right? Now, stress is unavoidable and most of us adapt to stress in such a way that we are no longer aware of it. The last part of the sentence is so significant. As I'm talking to you, I may be managing my stress, but I may not be aware of it. As you're listening to me, you realize that many aspects of your life, you are actually handling stress. Stress has become a part of you. But you do not realize that there is a stress in you. I'll be giving you some inputs which are not given in the book, which will sort of give you it'll open up some thoughts in you to understand how stress is happening in you and me. Absence of stress does not make things happen as much as too much of stress slows down things into ineffectiveness. So, no stress is not good. High stress is also not good. We have to come to a certain stage called an optimum level of stress. That's important. We need a certain amount of stress so that we live our life and there is a push which makes us achieve and become evolved people. That's very important. Efforts. When I want to put efforts, I need a little bit of stress. It's very important. Right? Now, Dr. Hans Selye has defined stress. He introduced the word stress in 1942. And his definition, quote unquote, stress is a non-specific response of the body to any demand made on a person. Demand can be anything. When I cannot handle something, I get a stress. Suppose somebody comes and tells me that, I want 10,000 rupees right now, and it's a person who's come in emergency, a person whom I care for. If I have the money, I give it to him. No stress. If I don't have the money, I care for that person. I want to give him. Stress comes in. When a demand is made on you, physical demand, psychological demand, emotional demand, when these are made on you and you find that you can't fulfill the demand, but you want to fulfill the demand or you have to fulfill the demand, then stress comes in. I'll repeat. When a demand is made on you, either physical or emotional or psychological or mental, and you wish to fulfill the demand, but you do not have the resources to fulfill the demand. Okay, either you wish to or you have to. Circumstances are demanding that you have to do something, but you are unable to do for various reasons, then I get into a state of a stress. Okay? He believed that when one is under stress, a set of symptoms of the body get manifested in the form of headache, backache, etc. This is known to all of us, it's very common. Okay, at this point of time, let me pause on the slide and ask you, I would like you to listen to what I'm saying right now. To begin with, what is stress real or is it imaginary? The answer to this question is stress is imaginary. If I think a thing is stressing, it is stressing me. If I think it is not stressing me, it doesn't stress me. So, what is causing the stress? The thoughts. Thoughts are nothing but energies through which we make meaningfulness of the world around us. So, a thought can create a stress. If I manage my thoughts, stress management automatically takes place. So, I would like you to record a statement which says thought management is stress management. I am taking this lecture for you, and while I am taking this lecture for you, there is a certain train of thoughts through which I need to talk to you. The train of thoughts can be in my mind, which is there, and the train of thoughts can be guided by the slides which is in front of you, one by one. Now, if this train of thought is going systematically, then I'll find that my stress is kept to the minimum. But imagine that my train of thoughts goes haywire, it gets derailed, and these slides are also going in a derailed manner, either or and. What would happen to my talk? I'll get into a stress. And how will the stress show? The stress will show in the way I deliver the lecture. You will find me faltering. You will find me talking things which are incoherent. And suddenly you will find that between sentence 1 and sentence 2 there is no correlation. These things can happen. This happens to everybody. Right? Now, thoughts and train of thoughts. I used a term called train of thoughts. Imagine that to be like a train. You know, when we go up country, when we go out of Mumbai to, let us say we are going to Delhi or Chennai or something, right? So when we are going to Delhi, what happens? We go to the station, Bombay Central Station, we board the train, and the train has got compartments. And the compartments are usually numbered as S1, S2, S3, S4. Now S1 comes first, and next logically S2 has to come. But we know with our railways, sometimes these dabbas are all given haywire. After S1 may come S12, and then suddenly S3 will appear. It can happen. It happens in the railway scenarios many times, right? Now, if S1, S2, S3, S4 is there, and you are entering the platform late, you know that your ticket is an S6. When you look at the first few dabbas, you know that exactly how much to run, how much to walk to go to the S6 compartment, right? Your stress is reduced because there is a systematic formation of the bogies one after the other. Similarly, in your thoughts, if you know how to think A first, B second, C third, in that order, then you can do your jobs pretty well. It becomes easy and predictable. But what happens is, when stress comes, this S1, S2, S3 of your brain gets derailed. I want to give you a talk. What should I say first? What should I say second? What should I say third? If this is in my brain, no issues. But while I'm telling you 1, 3 comes in, it butts into my thoughts. Then suddenly 5 reappears. 6 comes and presses me. Now this thing happens to many people. They are into chaotic thoughts. When chaos happens, it shows in the way they talk. The clarity of speech comes down. And the train of thought starts getting derailed. What needs to be said first, they'll be saying end. What needs to be said in the end, they'll say in the middle, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, when train of thinking gets derailed, first thing that you recognize is when you're talking, there is no correlation. You need to have the self-awareness to know that my correlation is gone, or some people may tell you. At that time, what do? We are supposed to pause. Reset the train of thoughts. Once the thoughts is reset, we are back into comfort zone and we are into clarity. Then we act upon it. How many of us do this? In a place like Mumbai, for example, when we are working or when we are traveling, our train of thoughts are totally chaotic. Do we stand at one place and say, okay, this is where I want to go, how do I go? Do I take a cab? Do I take an auto rickshaw? Do I take a bus? Do we plan? When we learned planning chapter in Principles of Management, we talked about the importance of stress management, if you recall it. I made a mention in the very first interaction with you about the importance of planning your day, having a goal. When you do that, your stress comes to the bare minimum. Now, when I do that, even if the train of thinking gets disrupted, I quickly know how to reset it. If I don't do that, and if I continue to run my life with a derailed train of thoughts, I will first of all be incoherent in what I talk. When I talk, people will not understand. And when that doesn't happen, it invades from the train of thoughts, from the thought level, it invades to the emotional level. I start getting irritated. I'll show some behavioral, some irritation which is unimaginable. For no rhyme or reason it will happen. I wouldn't say no rhyme or reason. There is a rhyme and a reason. It happens because my train of thoughts is not in line with the present, whatever is being addressed. Now when this further continues without any control or without any healing being done, this invades finally into the body. Now what is mentioned here, headache and backache, is the manifestation of a stress, third level. First it is mental level, thought level, it goes to emotional level, and finally it invades the physical level. Unfortunately, many of us, we recognize stress only when it comes to the physical level. When I get a spondylitis, a back pain, a headache, a gastric problem, that's the time I recognize, oh my God, I'm under stress. Now, stress has come to your body long back, but you ignored it. When did it come? It came at the time when your thoughts were haywire. That's why I keep telling you that thought management is stress management. When the thoughts are haywire, stop. Put your thoughts in order, reset the bogies of your train of thought, and then you'll find that things are moving. We say very often, isn't it? I can't think straight. I can't think straight. When you say I can't think straight, means stop. Make the thinking straight and come back. Now it is very nice and glamorous to achieve a lot of things with a lot of haywire thinking and haywire actions. That's what everybody is doing today. Whenever you do haywire thinking and haywire actions, the results don't sustain, and when the results go wrong, you do not know how to correct it. That is a global phenomenon today. Instead, I am thinking carefully, I am going systematically, I achieve some X. If X goes wrong, then I know how to rethink to achieve X properly. This makes a lot of sense at the micro level and also the macro level. 90% of the nonsenses which mankind has created, including economic slowdown, political conflicts, all this has got some stress somewhere which somebody has not handled. Somebody or a group of people have not handled it. That's the reason why we are going through all these global problems. When your ambition, your growth, your goals are too very disproportional, which you can't handle, my recommendation is, first and foremost, take goals which you can handle and start building up more and more responsibility where you can handle goals to the extent to which you can keep on evolving and stretching, but not to the extent of stretching so much that you do not know what's your name. It happens with people. They get into short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss. It's so pathetic to see people, brilliant people, who, because of their bad management of thoughts, in spite of being successful in industry, they become nuts at the end of the day. When I say nuts, means they can't do simple things and enjoy a good life. And then we talk about work-life balance at the end of the day. But your work-life balance will come when you know to manage your thoughts and draw your boundaries properly. Some people listening to me may feel, am I suggesting that you should not be ambitious? Certainly not. One can be ambitious. One has to be proportionately ambitious and grow in such a manner that there is a push, there is a stretch, but not a stress. There is a stretch, but not a stretch. Now, when the stretch becomes a stress, it continues to remain a stress, then the problem comes. Okay? So, taking it further, Dr. Hans Selye coined the concepts called eustress and distress, and the phenomenon called as a general adaptive syndrome or GAS. Eustress is a positive stress which is like a starter for any activity. Imagine you're going to make a presentation or you're going to the podium to give a talk, and there are hundreds of people sitting there. At the time when you're climbing up the podium and you're coming down to the stage, you get butterflies in your stomach. It's good. That little stress is important. That stress is a good stress. Like we have cholesterol, good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, triglycerides and diglycerides. Similarly, we need to have a stress which is important to start an activity. It's like a prime mover. The stress we experience before and at the start of any activity is called as a eustress, and this stress is needed to move us ahead towards the goal. If I come to the podium with a eustress and I start my talk, after some time I get anchored to the talk and the stress has vanished because I've become entrained with the audience. But there are people who come here, they have a eustress and the eustress remains even when they're talking. And it goes on and they become highly stressed. And the stress shows in the way they talk, in the way whatever they talk does not make sense to the audience around. Such people have entered into the second, the most devastating part of stress, which is called as distress. Distress is negative stress. This is what the world is fighting today, not eustress. When the eustress continues even beyond the start of the activity and creates loss of concentration and other symptoms, it's a sign of distress. It is distress which we need to recognize and manage. Okay? Now, here we are explaining general adaptive syndrome or GAS. It refers to the reactions or to stressors. What are stressors? Stressors are those demands that are made on you. Okay? It refers to the reactions to the stressors, the demands that are threatening. The causes of stress may be different for different people and for different situations. Each one has got what is called as a threshold of stress. We have threshold of pain, Similarly, we have threshold of stress. Some people can carry more stress than others naturally. How are they able to carry it? They are able to carry it because they are managing the thoughts. Some people can't manage even small things, it stresses them because they don't know how to manage the thoughts. So I keep on appealing to people, learn to manage your thoughts. When you manage your thoughts, your stress management automatically is taken care of. Now, gas occurs in 3 stages. First is an alarm. The alarm is when the stress comes as a physical reaction in the form of increased heartbeat, chemical flow happens in the body, and suddenly you find inside there is a panic, some sort of a flutter situation. Alarm. The ringing of a bell. Then comes resistance. The moment the demand is made, inside there is a pressure. After a prolonged exposure to the stressor, the stress is making a demand on me. When that demand becomes prolonged, the stress moves from the body to the mind. In fact, he is talking about body to the mind. I would rather say that first it comes to your mind, then it manifests in the body. It comes to the thought. If you language something which is coming to you in the thoughts as bad, as resisting, then it invades your mind. It invades your body. Right? Let's take this framework, the way it is being put, and let's try to understand. After prolonged exposure to the stressor, the stress moves from the body to the mind. The person decides to flee from the situation. He displays resistance. So there is a very popular thing which psychologists already learn in their subject of psychology. They say whenever an organism is facing a threat, stress is like a threat. Whenever the organism is facing a stress, it resorts to one of the 3 actions. Either it fights, it freezes, or it flees, it runs away. Right? So when the stress comes, what happens inside you? You want to run away from the stress. Your thoughts say, I want to run away from this. But you have to be there because there's a demand on you and you need to do it. Then what happens? The stress continues in you and you go through what is called as the exhaustion phase. If the stressor continues even beyond, then the individual experiences physical and mental draining of energies and slowing down of activities, and efficiency is the outcome. So first there's an alarm which enters your body, and as per this model, after that it enters the mind, and when it enters the mind, it creates a drain of energy, and that drain of energy can pull down your efficiency. GAS, alarm, resistance and exhaustion are the 3 stages through which this goes. General adaptive syndrome. Okay? Taking it further, causes of stress are many. Here a few have been given here. Now here we are talking about job stress. Job stress, or we can say organization stress. There are 2 things. One is the organization stress that comes to me. The other one is the individual stress which I create because of my thoughts. Right? Certain types of jobs are stressful because of the nature of the job. Long hours in a BPO or in a chemical plant which is manufacturing toxic chemicals. Okay. Now these are inherently challenging for the human endurance. So they could be stressing for certain people. It may not be stressing all the people perhaps. So there are 2 things which we are discussing now in this module. We are talking about job stress, that will be followed by individual stress. Job stress could be because of the administrative policies and strategies of the company. Some policies, some strategies which the company has doesn't suit your thinking process. Coming at 9 o'clock in the morning every day sharp, administrative policy. If you don't come for 9 o'clock for 3 days, you're getting a casual leave. And you're trying your level best to come from home on time because you're staying far off, transportation is not easily available, you have a challenge, and every morning this administrative policy of your company is creating a stress in you. This could happen, right? Second, organization structure and design. The reporting system in the organization. Now I am reporting to X, X is reporting to Y, Y is reporting to Z. Now when this reporting system comes, it's possible that X is not conducive to my working. I have got no other lookout. I have to only report to him. Now when that happens, I have an organization structure that's coming in the way. I cannot escape it because he's my boss. Like we say now, when we join an organization, I cannot choose my senior, I cannot choose my peer, I cannot choose my subordinate. So when this is the case, the organization structure can become a source of stress for you. Because you may get a boss who's very difficult to handle, or so you think, right? Then we have organization processes. The way the organization works, certain systems, certain process flowchart. Like I talked about chemical plant. In a chemical plant, there's a toxic chemical being manufactured. So that toxic chemical, you have to be there. Somebody has to go and control that particular area in terms of production. So those processes could become a part of your stress. When you work there, you will getting illness that causes stress. Okay? Working conditions. When the working conditions are not conducive, it can create a stress. It's too cold in the room, you can get a stress. It's too hot, you may get less of lighting, you may get a stress. More of lighting also gets a stress. But it is subjective to individual, right? Also, personality types get stressed. This is individual to a person. There are the type A people. There are the type A people who are very aggressive, go-getters, impatient, and they are prone to get stress. They are the achievers. They are the super achievers and the heroes. But these heroes land up becoming zeros because of increased distress, and like once we said humorously, from being vertical throughout their life, at the latter part of their life they become horizontal, which means they fall sick and they lie in hospitals. Okay. External locus of control is also a stressor. External locus of control means when I have an internal locus of control, it means I am in control of the situation. I feel I'm in charge. It's a feeling, it's a perception. But when it's an external locus of control, I feel nothing is in control. Everything I'm a victim. So when this feeling keeps coming quite frequently, it is an external locus of control. It can be a stress in my life. Right? What happens when stress comes? Mild stress is conducive to performance. It encourages movement ahead and goal attainment. However, when stretch becomes too much, the stress becomes distress. The capacity to take stress varies from person to person, and the effects of distress is manifested in physical and mental forms, also in emotional forms. Now, stress and performance, there's a table in your book. I want you to go through that. And performance is affected in the manner in which one responds to the stress levels. And there are 3 stages. Too little stress leads to low performance. Too much stress leads to low performance also. But optimum stress leads to high or optimum performance. Optimum stress. Optimum means I can take up to this point. Beyond this point I can't do it. And at that point you must stop. In fact, I would say 90% of your optimum level you must work, so that extra 10% you can put into practice when there's an emergency. Okay? Now how do you make it out? Only you know. You're the best judge. There's no meter, stress meter, there's nothing like that. Only you know that how much you can take. Right? Each of these stages create body and behavioral responses ranging from boredom, this creates a boredom, to alertness, to panic. Okay? Now, strategies to cope with stress. How do we cope with stress? There are certain strategies. We cannot eliminate stress, we need to manage them wisely. You've got to be really intelligent to manage your stress. You know, there are people who are doing a lot of work during the day, yet you find them to be very peaceful, calm and fresh. And between work A and work B, they may be having 20-30 minutes of break. And these people know to wisely manage it by taking the 30-minute break and actually relaxing. They relax in various ways. Reading a book. They may be eating their lunch very slowly. That's also relaxation. So you must take an activity which is giving you a mental shift from what you're doing. That mental shift is very important. Okay? So job stress at the workplace could be of two dimensions. It's because of the problem in the job or the emotion of the person. Again, within this there are two dimensions. The stress may be due to the individual's own reason or due to the reasons of the organization. So if you refer to your book, there are four squares we can talk about. A stress, job stress coming because of a problem, an individual, a problem centric, which is organizational, and emotional centric to the individual and emotional centric to the organization. Four different forms are there, right? Now, what do you mean by problem centric? Problem centric means the stress is coming because of a problem I'm facing. That problem can become a stress for me, but it may not be a stress for someone else. The problem, I'm also facing a job stress because there's an emotion which is affecting my job. There's an emotion to the job, there's a problem to the job. The problem may affect me or the emotion may affect me. The problem could be something like the job that I'm doing is having a break in the assembly line for 10 minutes. I'm sitting idle and suddenly there's a rush of activity coming up after that. That can become a stress, problem centric. Emotion centric is the job which I'm doing is creating certain type of emotional disturbances because I'm dealing with employee counseling. And that can become a emotion centric for me. It may not be emotion centric for someone else. Now, due to individual reasons, the individual himself and his personality may be the cause of the stressor. It may be a cause of a stressor, as a result of which it can be overlaid with problem also. The problem is there and the individual himself is having a personality, so he may have a problem. Or there may be an organization reasons, the whole organization is functioning, the nature of business into which it is. That could be the reasons because of which the stress could happen, right? Now, strategies to cope with stress. Stress management follows three basic steps. First, understand that stress can have a negative effect on the person, both physically and emotionally, leading to dysfunctional life. Many of you must be aware of it, that people fall sick, people age, not because of the number of years they live. They age because they are not able to understand their stress that they're going through. And you don't even recognize that this is stress. You don't even recognize this is stress. One very strong indicator I've given you is learn to understand your thoughts. If your thoughts are going haywire and on any one area you cannot have a focus, then there is a stress in you. It is a haywire thoughts that is a clear-cut signal that there is a stress already in you, but we don't bother about it. We think that chaotic thoughts are okay. In the chaotic thought, we take corporate decisions. And we call it creativity many times, unfortunately. Okay? Identifying those stressors that affect the individual's behavior and performance adversely. I must know what are the things that are stressing me. Somebody's behavior, some way of functioning in the organization, some particular contraption which I bought. I know people who get stressed because they buy a mobile. Smartphones are stressors for some people who are not used to smartphones. And after some time they get so stressed they give it away. Okay, so stress can be coming from any area, so you must learn to recognize what stresses me. Then you address it properly. Taking constructive steps towards coping with stress and minimizing the effects. That's a corrective action. Now here is a 4 different quadrants I talked about. Individual emotional centric stress, individual problem centric, organization emotion centric, and organization problem centric. These are the 4 different ways in which we can manage a stress in an organization. Now, individual strategies to cope with job stress. Problem centric. The problem is time management. As I told you, 9 o'clock in the morning you have to come, and 3 days you come, you get a CL. That's a time management I need to do. So I need to give the organization the individual strategies. The individual has to understand his problem about time management by properly doing his own individual time management or time scheduling. Right? Seeking help. The individual has to seek help on a particular problem which he is facing, which is causing him stress. Or he has to shift his job to another job within the company or outside the company, which he thinks will not stress him. Just 3 points have been given. There are many such things that can be, initiatives that can be taken or strategies that can be formed. Then we have individual strategies for emotional centric stresses. learn to relax, learn to go for physical exercise, recreation, companionship, etc. All individual to the person, right? Now, organization, what sort of strategies organizations gives to people? When it's a problem-centric thing, it is about some job itself. So we redesign the job so that we make it interesting and stress-free. We have a proper selection and placement process by means of which we ensure that we take the right people for the right job. The jobs are there, we take the right people. A person may be highly qualified, but he may be stress-prone. Then he may not be fit for the job. Training, team building, some of these initiatives taken. Emotion-centric will be employee welfare facility, mentoring, open community. This is what is done in a group. The organization goes for employee welfare measures. By doing that, they are trying to make you feel good and take less stress. Okay, friends. Finally, we come to the summary. We learned what stress is all about and its effect on people. All stress is not bad. Some stress is useful for our growth. Certain personality types are stress prone. We also learned causes of individual and organization stress. And coping with stress needs to be addressed at two levels, individual as well as organization level. And we learned the strategies to cope with individual and organizational based stress. So that's all in this module, friends. Thank you very much and all the best.